Everybody checking in from the NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach, Florida. Things pretty much wrapped up here on Tuesday. And from a 49ers standpoint, we were able to spend some time with Kyle Shanahan in the morning over breakfast, basically. And then a little bit later, Jed York, the CEO of the 49ers, of course, addressing the 49ers offseason, their lack of spending, relatively speaking. Although they're at the bottom right now of cash spending in the NFL, everybody here is quick to point out that once Brock Purdy's contract is finalized, and once George Kittle and potentially Fred Warner sign new deals, the 49ers will vault up that list of cash spending. But on the topic of Brock Purdy, Jed York had some interesting things to say about that. The very first question I asked him was, how much of a role did he play in the 49ers slashing their cash spending? And, last year, well documented, they spent $85 million over the cap. So far this offseason, they're already at $80 million in dead money on this 2025 cap, which basically means that it's money already spent from the past that will count against the cap this year. And those are players that are no longer with the team. So players such as Deebo Samuel, $34 million accelerates on the cap this year. Eric Armstead from last year, Charvarius Ward, Leonard Floyd. And so that is a big part of it. And one of the lines that Jed York had was when I asked him about how much of a role did he have in it, he actually cited his uncle, Eddie DeBartolo, the Hall of Fame former owner of the 49ers, whose free spending ways, in a lot of ways, led to the invent of the NFL salary cap back in the mid 90s. And his answer was, I think my uncle played more of a measure by instituting the salary cap from his spending. It's just a math thing. And so it will be a math thing for the 49ers because of what Brock Purdy is going to entail with his next contract, going from, one of the lowest paid players on the 49ers, less than $1 million a year for his first 3 years of that contract, to now whatever that number is going to be. We don't know what that number is going to be, but Jed York did have some interesting things to say, including his assertion that he believes that Brock Purdy is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. He said along the lines of, when you find somebody who is a top 10 quarterback and can help you continually win football games, you have to make that decision, in other words, to pay him. And when you do that, it comes with consequences. So then I followed up with, you think that Brock Purdy is a top 10 quarterback in the league? And he said, I think he is. I think he's great. And especially when you combine him with Kyle Shanahan and when you combine him with what we have, meaning the supporting cast, he said he's a heck of a quarterback and we want him to be here a long, long time. Now, the negotiations are ongoing. And the 49ers, it's clear that they've made some sort of offer. And now it's in that standpoint of going back and forth and deciding on what the right number is for Brock Purdy and his representation and what the right number is for the 49ers as a franchise as they move forward. But what Jed York said about the negotiations, he says, I feel good. When he's ready, we'll sit down and finish it. It shouldn't be that hard to do. So clearly an optimistic signal that Jed York send out to the fan base and to everybody about where things stand with Brock Purdy and the 49ers, as they fully expect to make him the highest paid player in 49ers franchise history. Okay, so Kyle Shanahan also met with the media earlier in the day. Maybe not a whole lot of news coming out, but a couple of hot button topics that fans constantly ask about. One, the offensive line. And Shanahan made it clear that he thinks that Jake Brendel is a good center and that Colton McKivitz is doing a good job at right tackle. So I don't sense, based on what he said and based on what John Lynch said on Monday, that the 49ers feel this need or this desire to basically have competition for those guys, for them to keep their starting jobs. Now, it might turn out that way, depending on what they do with their first round draft pick, but it really doesn't seem like there's this big priority for the 49ers to make the offensive line, upgrade the offensive line. Maybe, like I said, if they take an offensive lineman with the 11th overall pick, maybe that guy would start at right tackle early on. But I think if the Flyers take a center or an interior offensive lineman in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, it will be very difficult for that player to step in. They do have some answers on the team at left guard, replacing Aaron Banks. But again, there is a possibility that a rookie could come in and start year one, just like Dominic Pooney did. But I think the possibility of the 49ers adding anybody in free agency, that's not going to happen at this stage. Now, one of the things that is interesting was that Jake Moody, the much maligned kicker for the 49ers, he will have competition. Kyle Shanahan said it. He said that there will be a veteran player who comes in right now. Brant Boyer, who's the new special teams coordinator, will have a large say in the matter. He's looking at the veteran free agent market. The 49ers do not expect to sign a kicker before the draft. Maybe they even look at the rookie free agent pool, but the bottom line is the 49ers do expect to sign a veteran kicker after the draft, and then that player will come in and compete with Jake Moody to be the kicker for the 49ers in this 2025 season. One of the other questions of the offseason was why the 49ers would release Kyle Juszczyk and then re-sign him later. And some of that had to do with the salary cap. In other words, when they released him, all of the money that had yet to count against the salary cap, as far as with the restructures and the bonus money that had already been paid out, that dead money, that accelerated to this year's cap. So it basically wiped that money off the book for future seasons. But the big reason the 49ers re-signed Kyle Juszczyk was because when he was released, the thought process was for the 49ers that they were pushing aside money in order to pay Dre Greenlaw. That was the one player the 49ers went after. In fact, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch flew to Texas to meet with Dre Greenlaw. They were not able to get that deal done. The Denver Broncos were very aggressive in offering him a multi-year contract, and the 49ers felt like they had a deal that might have been even better than what the Broncos were adding. Part of their pitch was, if you sign a one-year deal, you have a good season, the deal that you're going to sign with the Broncos is going to be blown out of the water a year from now, and you're going to be able to sign a $20 million contract annually with another team. But the 49ers weren't able to get that accomplished. So that money they kind of set aside for Greenlaw then became available for the 49ers to put back into the team. So part of that money was used in order for the 49ers to bring back Kyle Juszczyk. And now when you think about it, they did sign Luke Farrell, the tight end, and they were ready to move on with maybe using more of a two tight end offense, a blocking tight end as part of their base offense. And with Juszczyk coming back, the 49ers feel like just the way he keeps his body in shape, the way his play has not deteriorated at all over the past few years, and as many Pro Bowls as he's gone to in a row, being the most decorated fullback certainly in today's game at a time when the fullback isn't used much. 49ers were able to, because they lost out on Greenlaw, bring back Kyle Juszczyk. So those are some of the takeaways here from the NFL annual meeting. Still very much up in the air what Brandon Ayuk's situation is as far as being able to play from week one this season. 49ers are holding out hope, but they're certainly not banking on it. Demarcus Robinson, 49ers are, they go into this eyes wide open as far as the free agent signee from the Rams, a guy that is known as a very good professional, but who might have a 3-game suspension for violating the league's policy on substances of abuse. He was arrested for a DUI in November while with the Rams. So the 49ers go into this knowing that he might not be available for the first 3 games of the season. So they're holding out hope that Brandon Ayuk will be ready to open the season, but they also know that there's a chance that that simply might not happen either. So that's the rundown from the NFL owners meetings as 49ers moving on to the next phase of the offseason. And the next phase of the offseason is trying to replenish their roster through the draft. It's a big draft for them. Nobody here is making any bones about that or sugarcoating or downplaying how much the draft means, because the 49ers did not add a whole bunch of guys who are high quality, or I should say significant, no questions asked starters. In fact, they didn't add any of those guys, and they saw so many of those guys leaving free agency. They know that the draft is important, and they really have to crush it. So that's a story from Palm Beach, Florida, the Breakers Hotel, site of the NFL annual meeting, where every head coach, every general manager, and every owner was in attendance. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below, and that is it for now.